Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of a film podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the movie Dirty Harry. It's got Clint Eastwood in it, and we're going to talk about some facts about the movie before we give our ratings and opinions. So I'm going to pass it off to my main man, Rob. Here, Rob, take it away.
Okay, so Dirty Harry obviously is very influential. It's credited as being one of the first kind of a new age of cop thrillers. It led to a lot of basically a takeover into the 80s and 90s. But what I think is really also the antagonist of the movie is a fictionalized version of Zodiac. So it's kind of like that was very relevant at the time. Like it's in San Francisco. The movie takes place in San Francisco. That was very relevant to their time. The whole thing with this movie, one of the things that sticks with me about this is just like how hard they worked to make everything kind of relevant to what people were living through at the time. So Zodiac was a hot topic, so that's what their antagonist was. The movie was originally offered to Paul Newman, actually, and he turned it down. And then the next person was Frank Sinatra. He accepted it, so that it was actually going to be a Frank Sinatra movie. And it was going to be directed by Irvin Kershner, who ended up directing Empire Strikes Back. But Sinatra sprained his wrist shortly before they were going to start, and that's how Eastwood came in. And Eastwood said he would only do it if Don Siegel directed. So Don Siegel was known for at the time stuff like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which that movie is often credited as being sort of like a it's like anti-McCarthyism. It's like all a play on that, it's paranoia and like the Red Scare, all that kind of stuff. So he has a reputation as like a left-leaning filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to talk about is how this is almost the opposite of that. And it's really interesting. I mean, I think that's what we're going to talk about. It's impossible to talk about this movie without talking about, some of the political things about it, because it's that they almost go hand in hand. The movie almost invites it. But so yeah, Siegel is known as that. He was known for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I don't know how much further into it I want to get if we want to do ratings. I mean, I have other stuff, but I can kind of throw that in. I'll say this. I was gonna save it for later, but no, I want to hear Jimmy's rating before I say this, and then I'll tell you guys after. So, Jimmy, what did you think of Dirty Harry?
I thought it was a good movie. I liked it, and I had a fun time watching it. If I had to
What
give
would
it
you
a
rate
rating,
it?
if I had to
Yeah.
give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 7.75, like a very
Okay.
good movie.
Okay.
Yeah. I will not elaborate further.
Christian, you go next. I'll go last.
I had a hard time with this one. I had a hard time because there are a lot of things about it I actually do like, but there's so much I don't.
Yeah.
Like maybe a 5.25.
Out of 5? Oh no, out of 10. I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Okay. So I feel like my take on this movie has become more nuanced after the last time the first time I watched it, I felt like it was well, we'll get into it more later, but I'll say my rating, I gave it 2 stars out of 5, so I guess that's if we're doing 10, I would give it 4.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I would give it 4, and I'll talk about more later. But I'm trying to think. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to tell you. So one of the things about this movie is Clint Eastwood like got really pissed about like certain critics how they responded to the movie, because obviously the movie was a big hit. It's like a classic movie, but it even back then it had like loud opposition. So Roger Ebert described the movie as having a fascist moral position. Um, he kind of attributed that not necessarily to like the moral bankruptcy of like Don Siegel or anything like that, but he felt like it was just because of the times. But he still felt like the movie was, he didn't like that aspect of the movie. So that's kind of stuff that people, and there were big people that were talking, saying stuff like that. That used to piss Clint Eastwood off a lot. Don Siegel actually kind of was worried before the movie came out that would be the case. That he was worried about his reputation as kind of a liberal, like he has friends and he works in Hollywood. So, but I think one of the things I noticed yesterday about the movie is like, even though it does have like this aspect that is like, because the movie is made specifically for like people that weren't really represented at the time, because like it was the Easy Rider era where a lot of stuff was like, it's hippie culture and like everything. A lot of stuff in Hollywood was like very liberal at the time. So this movie was like a pendulum swing the other way to that. So it was purposeful. Don Siegel is a really talented director. I think even though he's liberal, at like the thing that comes first is for him is genre. So like with this movie, you can see, even though it has that aspect to it, that it's like it is kind of like it is like proto-fascist a little bit. But there are things he kind of sneaks in there that are like also like kind of ahead of its time. I mean, like you have like gay guys in the park in this movie, and like it does show like kind of stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know. The movie it's not as simple as like some people try and make it out to be. But at the end of the day, I do have a negative opinion about the movie. I do think it toes the line of being like overtly racist. And it's like the original propaganda film. But there's still things that are good about it. I love Clint Eastwood. Don Siegel, like I said, I just think he's like a pro. He's so good. And I mean, I'll have more to say, but I'll let maybe you guys chime in. Jim, you can say what you want to say about it.
I will say, how do you square that though with the entire scene where he basically goes up against the district attorney who says like, "You're being a fucking idiot. Like, why are you doing the things that you're doing? You
So,
are the reason why this guy was allowed to walk free because of the way that
I'm
you acted and your recklessness."
I'm glad you brought that up, but because I feel like that scene is like the nail in the coffin. I feel like that scene is like I see what you're saying, but like that's not like how you interpreted that the correct way. I feel like, but I feel like that movie is not like. I feel like that scene is not like played that way. It's played like Harry is like, the audience is supposed to be like, yeah, Harry's right. You guys are being liberal like assholes. Like you're just a bunch of libs, Harry is at his best when he owns the libs.
shooting a guy.
Yeah, shooting his
say-
magnum. But
I
so that
think-
scene is like very critical to me in like my assessment of the movie, because that district attorney is the most overtly like, oh, I'm just a stupid lib, and Harry's gonna own the libs and get the criminals and save the United States.
Mhm.
So like that scene, but I'm glad you brought that up. But so I think you kind of interpreted that the way a smart person would, but I don't necessarily know that that's like the intended play on that scene. The scene, I think you're supposed to be like, oh, Harry is common sense. Harry is facts and logic. Harry is the good guy. But you're right. But that's what I mean. This movie has layers to it, like that. On when I first watched it, I didn't necessarily see. Like I think Siegel brings something to this that makes it a little interesting. But at the end of the day, I do feel like the movie is just like. I mean, I'll talk about the things I don't like about it, that aren't political. Like there are things I don't like about it. But
You know, one of the big things that I don't like about the movie, is that the girl was 14, right?
I believe so.
Why
And
did
then
we see her getting
yeah,
pulled
didn't
out
they
of a
say
well
that?
naked?
Yeah, that's right, dude. I forgot about that. That's crazy. You're so right.
The
You're so right.
second
I
plot
swear
point.
they did say that, didn't they? Didn't
They
they say
did.
it
They
was
were
like a
saying that she.
girl?
Well, she was saying, yeah, it was a 14-year-old girl that got kidnapped from a movie theater, and yeah, they say that she's like underage, and as the plot progresses, they like find her in a well, and they pull her out of the well, and they like film her naked. It's just like an interesting. It's an
Yep.
interesting decision.
You know what? I didn't even pick up on that. That's a good call.
That and another funny thing. Not funny, I guess. This part is funny. When like the fat chick has her tits out. Like the five
Harry's a
homeless
peeping
people that
Tom.
just appear out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Peeping Tom.
What's he call it? What's he call him? A pie hawker? You filthy
Yeah.
pie hawker!
Yeah.
But like Jimmy's right though. Like Harry is in this alley, and it's a dark alley, and he's looking in the window at this fat lady and her Asian boyfriend or whatever. And then all of a sudden, there's like 6 guys there, and they're like they don't live there because when his partner comes running out, and he's like, "Hey guys, go away!" Like, "Hey, leave him alone." They all run out of the alley. So it's not like they're going home. Like they're running, they're leaving. So why were they there? They were fucking being weird
the
too.
funniest part about that too is that they call her Hot Mary.
Yeah, they do.
So they know.
That was such a funny scene.
It's obviously a bunch of other perverts that were lambasting him for making it too easy, because then they would all end up getting caught.
Christian, were you? I think I interrupted you at some point. You were going to say something.
No, I mean, you did, but I can't remember what the fuck it was. No, I think I agree with you that ultimately, like, from my first viewing to my third viewing, my opinions of this movie have changed.
Yeah.
Because I do think he intended for it to be a nuanced film, but almost I don't know. I feel like it's almost contradictory in a lot of ways.
I agree with you.
And I don't necessarily think contradiction is the way to do nuance, especially with a movie like this, where I just don't think it has a clear message or opinion. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not like the biggest fan of this movie.
No, neither am I. Even now that I like feel like I've softened up on it and I kind of see certain things about it, I just think it fails as like a movie. But one more thing I want to talk about. This was another scene I forgot about. Every time I watch this movie, this scene sticks out to me. It's the bank robbery scene. Mm-hmm. You guys, okay? So the thing with the bank robbery scene is, so Harry walks into this diner,
orders a hot dog.
Doesn't really notice much. He's ordering the hot dog. And then he kind of asks the diner cook or whatever. He's like, "Is that tan car still out there in front of the bank and or whatever?" And he's like, the cook's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Call the police. There's a bank robbery in progress." He saw a black guy sitting in a running car in front of a bank, and he said, "Oh, that's a bank robbery." And then the worst part about this is the movie makes him right. The movie says, yes, they are robbing a bank. There's no other reason that black man would be sitting in a car in front of a bank.
Call me crazy, but I feel like bank robbing is way more of a white people thing.
But the other part about the other angle about this scene is, this is what I'm talking about when I say there's like nuance to it. There's not nuance, but there's layers to it. Like, so basically, they kind of purposely dressed the guys as like Black Panther type. Like they're giving them kind of like, they may want to make them look like Black Panthers because that was very relevant at the time. There was a lot of like fear mongering about the Black Panther parties.
Yeah, it was 1971.
It was a hot item. So they very deliberately like made that, the case. What was I going to say about it? But the angle here is like, I guess just that, like, at the same time they're doing that, it doesn't necessarily feel like Don Siegel is like trying to be like, um, it might be because I know it's Don Siegel, but like, it doesn't feel like he's being like that's bad. Like he's just like trying to be relevant, I think that's one of the things he has. It seems like this movie's obsessed with being relevant, and it's to a fault.
I
Like
have a hot
the
take
movie
about this
ages
as well.
horribly. Go ahead.
The famous line, "Do you feel lucky?" and the whole monologue with that, kind of lame.
Yeah.
Kind of really
No, I
lame.
disagree. I completely disagree.
I
That is so badass. Every time I watch it,
I do not like Clint Eastwood's delivery of it at all.
it's better the second time he does it. The
I
first
don't know.
time
He
it's
sounds
like,
so checked out every time I. And you're right. It's a
well, he
badass
might be. He's
line.
the top.
The amount of
That
times
probably
I've heard
says
it
every day.
re-quoted and with like more emphasis, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like I'm gonna hear it for the first time originally," and it's pretty like flat.
Yeah, but so that's the thing, bro. Because I remember the first time that line had a huge like. I was like, wow, like that was awesome. But it wasn't that time. The first time he says it, it's like It's like just a quippy like throwaway.
Yeah,
The second time he says it, when it's the guy, the serial killer,
yeah.
that's when I like.
no,
was like,
that part
that
is
was
that hits.
badass.
That hits. I agree. I'm talking about the
Yeah.
bank scene one.
Yeah, I think that one is just like whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't know.
Um,
He sounded so checked out. He was just like,
yeah.
and like there's something to say about like being subtle, and sometimes flatness is intentional and purposeful, but it just didn't seem that good to me. I do
Yeah.
like that he was eating a hot dog the entire time, though.
I saw that it was a hot dog or a burger stand, and in my head, I was like, "He's gonna order a hot dog. I know it." And he's a glizzy gobbler.
Dude, he goes up to the guy and he's like, "The usual," and the guy behind the counter goes, "The lunch usual or the dinner usual?" And he's like, "What's the difference?" So this guy could possibly be eating 2 hot dogs a day for 2 different meals.
Yeah. I love how they also like, one of the things that's like so weird about this movie is like they're just like, oh yeah, his wife died in a car accident, but there's like no reason for it.
Yeah.
Like
Sometimes I
why
feel
is
like they
that?
purposely make his character like
A tune killed his
like
brother.
stone cold and edgy for no reason.
Yeah.
She couldn't have just like
one
died.
thing,
It was just no. She died, and it was also a drunk.
All right, I do have a couple notes I want to share if that's okay.
yeah, go ahead.
So, I want to start at the very beginning of the movie, like maybe the first the opening scene, the
That's
first
a
like
very
4
good place to
minutes.
start.
I think shut up, Jim. I think this is the best, like this could be like you could go to school and they should teach the first 4 minutes of this movie about how to like do exposition without ever writing a single line of dialogue. I think it's
You know what,
amazing.
that's a good point. Yeah, I'm
It
thinking about it.
establishes the killer, it establishes Dirty Harry, the game of cat and mouse, and there isn't a fucking word spoken. It does so much with so little. And I think that is one of the things that does win me over about this movie is the screenwriting
Well, I also think, well,
and
yeah,
the
I guess
direction.
that is the screenwriting. But yeah, I was gonna say, I think Don Siegel is such a like saving grace for this movie. As much as I like Eastwood too, but like, I just think he brings so much like color to the movie that otherwise, like I've seen, like comparing it to like The French Connection, which equally like revolutionary movie, all that, and like I
Way better of a
appreciate
movie.
the French Connection too, but like I just think Dirty Harry is like directed better
Oh yeah.
outside of like that the car chase in French Connection, because that is awesome. Just in general, like Dirty Harry has so much more color to it. It's just a way more like engaging movie.
I like the soundtrack as well, actually.
Yes, yeah, I do like the soundtrack.
Um, And then going to that, like the car chase in French Connection, I fucking love every time when Scorpio is driving the bus full of kids. One, I don't know, I laugh every time he slaps the fat kid. That might just be me.
Say that, dude. That was so funny. That was so
I
funny.
burst
But
out laughing.
I love when he pulls up and just looks at Harry standing on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
he gets like his Batman moment. It's so cool. I love it every time.
I will say it does always look a little silly once he gets on the bus, just watching the school bus. And also, well, I'll let you go. I'll let you continue. But I just think that whole ending where like the serial killer is like kidnapping the kids and all this, it's just like I have a lot to say about all that, but I'll let you keep going. I'll circle back.
So, I mean, I don't know. I want your opinion on this, right? Harry he throws his badge in the water at the end of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to do things. He thinks the police has gone soft. The system doesn't work. All this, right? Like, is this what you're getting out of this?
So I think you can read it that way, or you can read it that he knows I don't know, he's crossed so many lines, he just can't go back type thing. I mean, it might be a little of both, I don't know.
Either way, there's a little bit of irony when you realize Clint Eastwood really wanted to make this movie and establish himself as something other than the Dollars trilogy character.
Right, yeah. This is his first like big hit outside of westerns. It made him not a westerns guy.
But I don't know. I feel like there's so many parallels you can draw between him and the Man with No Name.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that he played a very similar character in the end, just in a very different setting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he does. I love
morally
him.
Gray gunslinger.
Yeah. I love Clint Eastwood as an actor, but he does like basically the same guy. It's always sort of something along those lines,
Yeah. It's also hard that like I know Harry's kind of a piece of shit, but he does do cool things, and you're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like when he punched out that suicide guy.
That was funny too.
The guy who was gonna kill himself.
That was funny too.
Oh my god, it is undeniably funny to watch Harry own. It's so funny.
Oh, you're gonna kill yourself? Well, let me know your name and address so I know where to send your body.
Yeah.
He's just who is this guy?
One thing since you brought it up about the school bus thing is there's one thing that's funny and then one thing basically about the killer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the killer is like a big detriment in this movie. I feel like the guy is in a completely different movie than Clint Eastwood. Like he's playing it so over the top and it's such a weird like character. I just felt like it didn't work at all.
Yeah, the chemistry isn't there. Like the cat and mouse. He doesn't play a good foil to Dirty Harry, in my opinion.
No. And the other thing is once they're on the bus and he crashes the bus and Eastwood goes flying and then he runs away. Clint Eastwood has such a bloodlust for this guy. There's a bus full of screaming children that he leaves there. He leaves unsupervised. They just had a traumatic experience, and there's no one to like look after them, and he just leaves them, runs after this guy to fucking kill him. Like it's so many weird decisions that Harry makes in this movie.
Well, there was a knocked out bus driver there.
She had knocked out. She was like dead, bro. Well, the kids are all screaming too in the bus.
I don't know why I find it so funny when he slaps that kid.
So funny. I was crying. I love that part.
I think I just didn't expect it.
I just think there's something it's interesting because there's basically like there's like the villain in the first half versus the villain in the second half, and I get that like as he got caught and then like doing all this kind of stuff, he kind of like mentally deteriorates and all that. But like the first half of the movie, he's like so smart and purposeful, and there's like a the
Zodiac
to
element
the madness, yeah. And then the second half is just like I'm just like
Green
throwing
Goblin
this all out the window to like try and get out of here when he very easily could have just left. and went
He
somewhere
literally goes
else.
from like the cool Zodiac killer with the messages to the police and stuff to like the
A
Green
dork.
Goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the cohesion wasn't there. I do say like that being said, I like the actor playing him and I like what he's doing. It just doesn't fit the movie.
No. It's also so like the way that character's built, it's a little bit of like again with the like they're trying to be so relevant. He's basically like a 70s conservative's nightmare. He's like this like hippie guy, this like hippie looking type guy.
Mm-hmm.
And but
Oh no, the
one of
hippie who's killing all the what is he saying? Like the black
the
people and the gay
priests.
people.
Yeah, the hippie who's killing the priests and the black people.
Gay black people, even.
Yeah, that. But yeah, but one thing I forgot to say in the beginning is, what's the guy's name? He's another actor. He's in Escape from Alcatraz. I saw a video of him saying Larry Hankin. You know who he is?
No.
Yeah.
You would know him if you saw him. But he said, and I think it's one of the reasons Clint Eastwood wanted Don Siegel in this movie is Don Siegel is actually one of the reasons Clint Eastwood ended up directing. Because every movie Don Siegel would do with Clint Eastwood, he was basically at the same time as shooting the movie, like teaching him how to direct. Like he was
Right.
going through like things with him, and I just thought that was really interesting to think about it. Like this is almost like this movie is. There's a couple Eastwood Siegel movies, but like this is one of those stepping stones into like kind of Eastwood finding his own directing voice, and I kind of see where certain things that he does as a director kind of come from Siegel. I do feel like Siegel's a way better director than Clint Eastwood. I think Clint Eastwood is
I agree.
kind of milquetoast director at times.
So you know
But
what's interesting? This movie is very well directed. There is a movie that is not as well directed that is a lot better than this. And do you know what it is? Magnum Force.
that's the second one.
Yeah, it's an infinitely better movie, but it does lack Don Siegel's quality of direction.
Yeah.
Who directed it? Ted Post. Ted Post directed it.
Wait,
I
so
don't
it's
know
like
anything
Dirty
else.
Harry too?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never saw that one.
I have to see it.
Oh, Ted Post. You know what he did? He did Hang 'em High.
Mm.
Oh, I saw that movie. That's not a
Yeah,
bad movie. Hang 'em Highs are
and
pretty good.
Beneath the
Hang 'em
Planet of
Highs
the
are...
Apes.
Oof.
Hmm.
Oof. That's one of the better sequels, though. Give him that.
Yeah, he's not like he doesn't stand out to me as like a great director, but Magnum Force is Harry is a lot more likable.
Yeah. You know what,
And
though? Now that you say that, Beneath the Planet of the Apes and then Magnum Force, they're both sequels. So I do think this isn't the Ted Post podcast, but I do think he has there's certain guys that have a knack for like trying to replicate a style, and that's a talent, dude. Like not everybody can do that. Ryan Johnson couldn't do that. Like
it
some
seems
people
like
just can't do it.
it seems like in the sequels they really wanted to get away from the fact that like Harry is like this ultra conservative, you know, and they don't do a great job of that either. Like you can tell they're kind of trying to get away from it. But in one of the sequels, and I think it is Magnum Force, he like they're bringing like women into the police force, and Harry's like, no, no,
Oh
you can't do
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I
I
don't
saw
work
a
with
clip of that.
broads.
I think. Yeah.
Um,
Isn't that what does he say? Well, isn't that stylish? Is what he says. He says
yeah,
to her.
yeah, something like
They're like
that.
talking about bringing women in. He's like, well, isn't that stylish?
He so yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard not to talk about the politics of these movies. It really is.
This one was a great choice for the first one because we're gonna like alienate half the audience right off the bat, if anybody even listens to this. But
The audience,
yeah,
us.
yeah, us. But like, yeah, this movie it's so ingrained in the movie. Like you can't not talk about it. That's what the movie is, and to an extent, that's what cop movies are. Like, that's part of the genre. I don't
And
know.
I don't know. I want to get this out here, and I want your opinion on it. There are a lot of people who like a lot of filmmakers who love this movie, and I understand that because it's a well-made movie, right? But they kind of try to like do this backwards justification of the fact that Don Siegel was like traditionally a liberal director. And you can almost see this as like not a conservative movie, but just like an art house movie portraying conservatism.
Yeah.
Conservative, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like Quentin Tarantino does like this long rant about like how he's like, no, if you're liberal, you should like this movie.
Yeah, that's
And
where I
I'm
got
just
my
like,
facts, bro. I
Yeah.
got my facts from Quentin.
And I understand why Quentin Tarantino likes this movie, but like I just don't agree with him.
He has a weird thing where if he likes a movie, he will like do anything. Like he'll like cope basically.
Yeah, I
however
don't
he
know.
has
It
to,
felt
which is fine. I mean, but he does have like weird takes on certain things.
it felt like you were really having to do mental gymnastics to be like, no, that's not what this is about. It's a
Although,
commentary, it's a depiction of it. And I'm like, I don't know.
yeah. Although at the same time, I do think it's interesting to hear that because to a certain extent, I think has a good point. Like there is something interesting about that, but it doesn't necessarily like the movie.
It doesn't do it well.
No, it's in the end. I feel like even though Don Siegel's there, and there are little hints of like, hey, this other layer to it. It is at the end of the day to me like just barely not full on like racist, and it's definitely propaganda. It's like Roger Ebert is probably right. It's like fascist propaganda kind of. But the one scene that does a lot of heavy lifting and keeping this movie from falling all the way into that is the scene where the little boy is dead and all that. I think that scene alone is kind of like holding so much weight. Because if that scene wasn't in it, this movie is like absolutely all those things.
But like,
but because that scene's in it, it's like, well, Harry
that.
feels bad for this mom and this child, and you know, there's more people affected by this, you know, than just Catholic priests, you know. So,
it just
it does have this layer. What'd you say?
It just doesn't do a good enough job for me to earn that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you. But I think it was important that was at least in there, because otherwise, the movie just has absolutely no. It's just a heartless. This guy doesn't give a fuck. So I do think that scene was important, even though I agree with you. They didn't really. It doesn't really fit with the rest of the movie. Like, he doesn't give a fuck about anybody else. Why does he give a fuck about them?
Yeah, and I can understand, like, oh no, it's subtle and all this, but to me, it's hard not to take at face value.
Yeah.
And that being said, like, yeah, I'm not one. I think that's ultimately how I feel about it. Like, I appreciate it from a filmmaker's perspective, I guess, or from a filmmaking perspective, because I'm not a filmmaker, but and it's a really well made film, but it doesn't get my like seal of approval, I guess.
Yeah, me neither. I would never recommend this to anybody.
No, nor would I.
Who even recommended this film that we watch?
You did.
Yeah, you did. You picked it. You never saw it before.
You said we should watch Dirty Harry, and me and Robbie went, Jesus Christ.
But I was low-key excited because I knew that I had a lot to say about it.
That's the thing. Like, this is a movie I could spend months getting my thoughts together and probably still not have a clear idea of what I want to say.
Yeah, it's a little like, I don't know. You could do a college course on like some of the things with this movie. I feel like, but one thing I also thought was funny was, maybe this isn't funny. I don't know, but I thought it was funny. They made his partner's name Chico Gonzalez. Like, what is that? That's like racist. Like, I felt like I was like, wow. And then the first thing Harry says after they say that was like something like, "You got to be kidding me! I don't believe this." And I was like, "Me too, Harry. Like, this is why would they name him that? That's like, so like, they might as well call him Speedy Gonzalez, bro. Like, give him a normal name." Fucking Chico Gonzalez.
Give me the fatso Italian.
Yeah. I don't know, Jim. What do you have any thought more? What are your thoughts? Because this is your
I
first
think
watch.
that
Me
they
and
should
Christian
have
came.
made this into a TV show, and they cut out like if they cut it out the main story, and it was just like the goofy little side stories. I could see this having like 10 seasons
Is
on
that
TV.
I may be wrong, but is that Magnum PI?
I don't
Is that
know.
the same?
I don't
I
know,
don't know either. Christian's the type of person who would know that stuff.
but I feel like that would make a great
Um,
TV show.
I kind of see what you're saying. I agree with you. Actually, I do think it would be better as a TV show.
Because also like the kind of racist humor or the kind of racism
Kind
that
of
could be
race.
perceived as humor is probably going to be seen as humor more on like TV, where it's just kind of like, haha, like, yeah,
It's less.
Mexican. Like, yeah, it's like it's kind of like it because
It's
the whole
taken less
premise
seriously.
of everything is so like uh like punching a suicide a guy that's trying to commit suicide. You punch him in the face, or like
That's
you
good.
think that you see a guy in a suitcase and you end up accidentally peeping on some like fat chick with her tits out.
Yeah.
Like this is like I don't know
Hot
what the
Mary.
word is. Yeah, hot Mary. The bombasticness, I guess you can. So like all the other elements of it can kind of be seen as just like extreme humor, just for the sake of it.
I just thought of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I know, I think, is it Tarantino who said this, and I do agree with this part of his review of it. It's very much a reaction to like all the liberal movements going on around 1971.
Yeah. Yeah, like an Easy Ride, like that's what Easy Rider was like taking over Hollywood. Like that kind of movement was taking over Hollywood. Ever since Easy Rider, like many people will say at the time, Easy Rider like changed the business
Right.
For a while. So yeah, this was a reaction to that, and it definitely like is influential.
I mean, this spawned so like its own genre.
Yeah, this spawned David Fincher's career.
Yeah,
that's another thing Tarantino said. He like that was a shot. If you're listening to this, go watch Tarantino talk about this movie. He basically like reduces David Fincher's whole career to serial killer movies, which is. And I thought about it, and I was like, you're kind of right to an extent. But one thing I thought was really funny, another scene that I thought was like hilarious was Harry is running through the park, and this kid walks up to him thinking he's like has drugs or something. And the kid's like, if you're a vice, I'll kill myself. And Harry's like, well, go home and kill yourself. Don't do it here.
I thought that he was propositioning him for gay sex.
Dude, I did too at first. That's our woke mind virus minds in modern.
Well, I mean,
but
he was asking for drugs.
I guess I don't know.
Well, he asked like, my friends bet me to do a dare.
Maybe he was. I don't know. But I know he looks because he thought Harry was a vice. So a vice is like drug cop.
Honestly, some of my favorite characters were the random side characters that appeared for 2 seconds and then left. The homeless dudes under the tunnel, the black guy that beat up the killer for $200.
That was so funny.
Oh yeah, and then in the park.
Yeah. So that was another thing. That whole thing about like that was such a weird arc because the movie is I don't know if it was on purpose, but the movie's almost like implying like if somebody says a cop beats them up, like, oh, he probably just got some guy under to fuck.
Yeah.
It's just these libs, they don't like that we're doing good down to earth police work and following them around after they got out of jail because I fucking didn't give him his Miranda right shit. Like I fucking failed as a police officer. Oh, but it's his fault, like I don't know. It's a lot of fucking shit in this movie that's like doesn't necessarily feel like totally purposeful, but it's in with as time passes, it just represents something that's really like kind of gross. But I will say one thing I did like. This is a kind of stupid little thing, but it really made my brain like excited. I was so like I lit up with happiness. Harry basically they're looking for Harry has the bag, and the killer's making him run. He makes him go to this like dock or this some area basically, and he's kind of standing there looking for the guy. Doesn't see him. hears a phone ring. He's like, it's a payphone. He doesn't really notice at first, and then he kind of puts it together. He's like, I need to get that. And it's kind of doing close cuts between the phone and him. And then it switches to a cut of the angle of the phone and him running, and you see how far he is. And he has to run all the way down there. He books it to the phone. He gets it. I just thought the way they shot all that scene was so good. It was so good because you're given this perspective that he's like, you're giving a surprising perspective after kind of thinking he's like nearby, and then it's suddenly he's far, and you get a little bit of like tension built up, and you're like, oh my god, he has to get there, and
the
so
continuation of it,
certain things like that, yeah.
The continuation of that scene where he's running all over the city, picking up payphones. That might be my favorite part of the entire movie.
I think it is mine as well.
Just the
it is
slow
the best part.
clacking of the heels on the concrete.
Yeah, and also the movie should have ended on the field. It goes way too long. The whole the whole thing afterwards is like just a total waste of everyone's time. I feel like it's just an addendum to like, I don't know, yeah, and to make Harry be like have to go against the system and all this. It's like, I don't know. I didn't really like it.
Do we now have to watch the other 5 Dirty Harry movies?
No.
Fuck no. Fuck no. I'm not.
Do they get any better? Do they get worse?
Like I said, I think Magnum Force is better, but I don't think it's worthwhile. I wouldn't recommend that to anyone either.
I think the movie in like total is just, it's too silly to be taken seriously, but it's also too like dark and like serious to be fun. Like, it's not a fun movie. I don't enjoy watching it, and
actually the first watch through, I struggled to finish it.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, I could see that. I actually think this time I was more engaged throughout until after the football field, and then I've just felt like this is like a waste of my time. Like, just get to the point, because it felt like there was like 6 endings.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think the first time I had trouble too.
That's like, and the thing interesting about it is, it's almost a series of like vignettes. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
I don't know what a vignette is.
Like it's almost like a bunch of short, interconnected
stories.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what Jimmy's saying. Actually, I think that's a great point. Like, it does kind of feel like it could be a TV like series, but I guess they didn't have like HBO like dramas like that. So
no, and I think actually, to its credit, I think that's what kept me interested and kept watching. Because it's very episodic in a way.
Yeah.
Which is interesting for like an hour and 45-minute movie.
Well, I think it's because it like makes him seem to be just like a hard ass at first. Because I thought that this is like where the trope of like the hard ass like cop and like the I don't need a partner, like all that shit like comes from. And as you progress to the film, you do kind of feel like, okay, like this guy isn't just like a dickhead. Like, he like is trying and he has to like do all this shit.
Yeah, but it never gives him a reason to be that way.
Well, his wife is dead, so.
Yeah, but we don't know why.
A drunk driver.
Yeah, we do. The woman at the end, she asks him, "Oh, what about your wife? She must be so worried. Oh, my wife is dead, you bitch."
Perchance I am sorry. Perchance I am sorry.
Fucking got hit by a drunk driver, senseless. It actually was kind of a good scene because he is like They could have made it, but they could have made it like, oh, she got gunned down by a druggie or something. But they made it like a drunk driver, and he literally says like it was just no one's like it's just.
And I understand we know like literally why she died, but we don't know like the importance of his dead wife. It can't be the reason he's like that as a human being.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, he's been hardened because of all the dirty jobs he's had to do for the law, man.
Is that why they call him Dirty Harry?
It's because he doesn't shower.
He gets fucked over with the shit stick or whatever, what Chico says.
Yeah, well,
Chico
the first reason they
Gonzalez.
give is because he's racist.
Evil torture guys on football field and then not give them their rights,
Yeah.
and then let killers go free because he's bad at his job.
Yeah. But it's okay because,
Yeah,
you know,
he's actually
lovable.
Because he
extraordinarily
owns the
bad at his
libs,
job.
He
Jim.
owns
It's
the
okay
libs,
because he
yes.
owns the libs. The liberals in the district attorney's office.
You stupid
Don't
fucking
worry.
UC Berkeley judge. What do you
All right.
know?
The mayor doesn't understand. I
That's
need to
actually-
leave these kids in the school bus crying so I can
So-
feel my bloodlust rage.
You know, like walking into the movie not having seen it before and not really knowing much about it. The first watch, I was so on board with Harry in like the first couple scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. He's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like when
And-
he goes into the mayor's office and he's been like,
Yeah.
what have you been up to? He's like, I've been sitting in your fucking waiting room for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's all Clint Eastwood. He's so good at that kind of, and I do think that like that's the problem with the movie is that's why it's like stood the test of time, because if you don't think about it, you know, the movie's good. You know, it just is a good movie. It's well made. Clint Eastwood's great in it. It's funny. The action's good. But like if you think about it at all, it just makes you feel like dude. Like the movie
Yeah.
just makes you feel terrible. Like everything the movie's saying, it only gets worse. And a lot of it, I get why people try and forgive it because it was just trying at the time. It was like a different time, but it wasn't good then, and it's not. It's definitely not good now
Yeah.
to me.
Do we have final thoughts?
I like
I think
the
those
movie.
are my final thoughts.
I still
I'll
like
say, for my final thoughts, that I see more merit in the movie. I still
I'm gonna cut
not
you off real
only-
quick. I need you to say that
Okay.
one more time because you cut off.
okay. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I think the movie is bad, but I see more merit in it than I used to because it fails not only like we're talking about like kind of like politically, but it fails like as a film. I feel like in many ways, its reputation's a little higher than the actual reality, but it's very influential, rightfully so, and I think it establishes a lot, like technically for like future films and in the genre that are so. And Clint Eastwood's great, and it gave us more Clint Eastwood other ones, which is a good.
All right.
Yeah,
Take it away.
I think, yeah, this movie is very contradictory, lacks a little bit of cohesion. What does stand out is Clint Eastwood. I actually think the Scorpio performance, while very disjointed and doesn't fit the movie, stands out to me as well. But where it does have value is those performances and the cinematography and the direction. But the writing kind of loses it for me.
I agree. I think the writing is one of the flaws of the movie because a lot of that stuff comes from. I think there's the two sides of the coin. There's the Siegel side and the Eastwood, and I forget the writer's name. Let me see here. I had it up here. Reisner. That's who. And Reisner kind of has a different voice than Siegel. I'll just leave it at that.
Mm.
Jim?
I like it. I like it because it was a very. I particularly really enjoyed the first half of the movie, and I found that it was engaging. I like the little stories. I like the character, the way that they build up the character, and then after the football field scene, it kind of does trail off at the end for me. And the only like things that I felt particularly engaging about it were when he slapped a child. The rest of it was kind of like it was a miss for me. Maybe except for the very ending when he delivers his like speech monologue again. That was good. My final thought on this movie would be that actually, as I was watching the end of the movie, my actual final thought was it would be funny if he actually did fire 6 shots and the movie just kind of went past that and he did like not have enough bullets. But
And then they
just
just
'cause of
wait
plot
until
armor.
somebody else gets there.
Well, no, just because of plot armor, he like shot him again anyway. You know.
Yeah.
But that would be funny. Yeah. Do you guys have any idea of what movie you want to talk about next?
Oh, I've got some brewing.
Yeah, we can do I don't know if do we want to say it here? I mean, I'm open to some of the things you said, Jim. I could suggest my own, or I'm open to anything Christian has in mind.
I have a couple movies in mind. I have some movies in mind that I also haven't seen.
I think right now we should all throw out 3 movies, and then of those 3 movies, the next episode of the podcast will cover one of them.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first, or
Yeah, go ahead.
After Hours?
Hold on, let me grab.
That's a good one. I want to see that actually.
Let me grab like a notepad so we can write this down so we gotta have like continuity.
Sure.
You said After Hours?
Yep. It's a Martin Scorsese film. I have a lot of things to say about that.
Okay.
Barry Lyndon.
Barry Lyndon. Go ahead.
And Logan's Run.
What is that about? I feel like
It's
I've watched that.
Old sci-fi movie, and I couldn't think of a third one, and that was the first movie that came to mind.
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen it. Go ahead, Rob.
No, you go first because I need to gather mine.
All right, so I recommended Heat in the group chat. Heat in all capital letters, apparently. Click.
Click.
We're not doing Click.
And The Proposal.
The Proposal. Oh my God, the Sandra Bullock movie.
Yeah, and then we'll have to get if we do The Proposal, we'll have to get Abner in here.
I'm trying to think about it from like a perspective of I'm open to whatever, and I have ones that I love that both of you to see, or like obscure movies that I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
But I am also thinking about like what does Jimmy need to see.
Yeah,
like
this is more about the education of Jimmy.
This entire podcast is dedicated to expanding my media literacy.
So one, I am going to do The Godfather as one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm going to say The Shining as one.
Okay.
And I'm going to say 12 Angry Men.
Which one?
The
50.
What's his name? Oh my God! Why am I drawing a blank? What's his name? Fuck. The guy.
The guy that did that thing.
The black and white one.
Henry Fonda. That's it.
Yes.
The Henry Fonda one.
Henry Fonda. What is that? Like
I think
the 1951?
Yes, 1957. Sidney Lumet.
Yeah, and I do think that we'll keep it essential to the education of Jimmy on film.
All right.
It can be whatever. I think. I'm just thinking for the first couple of episodes, just so like I know as like I'm doing.
There's like a baseline.
An effort. I'm doing my part to suggest things for him, like that.
Okay.
I think he will want to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to get out of the way, kind of thing. But also, I want to talk about them. I think they're interesting. I mean, even though The Godfather stuff like that, sometimes it's like, I mean, how much are you really going to say that's new about it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Right.
maybe I don't know, but you never know. Maybe we'll have an interesting perspective.
I think we have a good list. I think we have a lot of fun movie reviews ahead of us.
I can't wait to choose none of them.
Yeah, we'll be back.
This entire bit
in
was
2 months with Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Yes. I just want to say I'm going to use this since we have this platform. I'm going to be using this to talk about things that I enjoy. I just started Suits. That's pretty fun.
Oh, I love this. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
No, that's it. That's all. I'll update more.
Can we
I only
do
watched
this at the
first,
end?
like,
Can
3
we talk about
episodes.
things we like?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm
I
down.
love that.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I love that.
What do you guys like?
You go, Christian.
I have been rewatching Mad Men.
Ah, she's got the big tits in it.
Masterpiece of
The
a
chick
show.
with the red hair.
It may be one of the best television shows ever made.
Better than The Wile.
And then I've recently also watched Grave of the Fireflies, which is a Studio Ghibli movie.
That is a amazing movie, dude. Amazing movie.
It's hard to find one that isn't. They're out there, but Studio Ghibli, yeah, they're enjoyable.
I think that is the best one. If anybody is listening to this, go watch that movie.
You know how they got out to the word Ghibli?
How?
It was on the side of a plane.
That is probably true because he is obsessed with planes.
Yeah, he is.
Anyway, Rob, what do you like?
So I'm trying to think of when we did this last. I did watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the show on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was awesome. That was a great show. I watched The Penguin, that was great. But movies, yesterday I watched Real Pain. That was a great movie. I love that movie. Jesse Eisenberg. That might be I want to see more of what he does, dude. Like, he did a really good job directing. Kieran Culkin is such an awesome actor. I did watch Joker Folie à Deux today. That almost deserves its own episode. I hate the original Joker, but I kind of like this one. So
we may have to.
And then I saw Heretic and I saw Kneecap, which both of them were awesome.
Heretic's a great movie.
They were two of the best movies I've seen this year.
I was telling you, go see Heretic. I'm really glad you did.
Yeah. And that's about it. I mean, I've seen a lot. Well, I guess I've seen a lot this month, but those are the big ones this year.
I can't wait to hear what we have next time.
All right, everybody. Make sure you sub to the YouTube channel. Look at us on Spotify, the Real Pod Network. I upload the episodes on Spotify first.
Always tip your waitresses.
Always tip your waitresses. Make sure to wrap it up before you stick it in. And I'll
spay and neuter your pets
later.